Half a century ago, the name Richard John Bingham, better known as Lord Lucan, became synonymous with one of Britain's most haunting murder mysteries. He was accused of brutally killing 29-year-old Sandra Rivett, the devoted nanny who cared for his children. As if that wasn't shocking enough, he then turned on his wife, Veronica, attempting to make her his next victim. By sheer luck and courage, she survived. But what truly stunned the world was what came next. Lord Lucan vanished without a trace. For decades, his disappearance fueled endless speculation, with reported sightings from Africa to Australia. Now, with new evidence emerging, the mystery of what really happened to Lord Lucan might finally be nearing its end. Yet, be warned, the truth is far from comforting. The night of November 7th, 1974, would forever change life inside the Lucan household at 46 Lower Belgrave Street in Belgravia. That night, in the quiet of the family home, a horrific act was about to unfold. Sandra Rivett, the kind and hard-working nanny, went down to the basement kitchen to make a simple cup of tea. But hidden in the shadows was an attacker, armed with a heavy lead pipe. Without warning, Sandra was struck repeatedly. The blows were so precise and forceful that she didn't have a chance to scream or defend herself. Upstairs, Lady Veronica Lucan waited, unaware of the horror unfolding below. Moments later, she too was confronted by the attacker, struck violently on the head, left dazed and bleeding. But through sheer will, she managed to break free and flee into the dark, cold streets of Belgravia, screaming for help. Her cries shattered the silence of one of London's wealthiest neighborhoods, and within hours, police were on the scene. Evidence quickly began to piece together the story. The bloodied lead pipe, wrapped meticulously in plaster, suggested premeditation, not a crime of passion. The brutality, the planning, and the timing pointed to one man, Lord Richard John Bingham, the 7th Earl of Lucan. Lord Lucan was no stranger to privilege. Educated at Eton, he had served with the Coldstream Guards in West Germany after World War II. But it was his taste for gambling that defined him. A regular at the exclusive Claremont Club, Lucan cultivated the image of a charming aristocrat and high roller, but behind the facade lay mounting debt. After leaving his job at a London merchant bank, he became a full-time gambler, chasing the thrill of high stakes for the next 15 years. He was known for his lavish lifestyle, speedboats, fine suits, and a prized Aston Martin. In 1963, Lucan married Veronica Duncan, a match celebrated across Britain's high society. Their wedding at Holy Trinity Church in Brompton drew notable guests, including Princess Alice, Countess of Athlone. With his father's financial help, Lucan bought and renovated 46 Lower Belgrave Street, the family home that would later become the scene of unimaginable tragedy. 2 months after their wedding, tragedy and fortune struck the Lucan family in quick succession. Lord Lucan's father passed away from a stroke, leaving his son with a sizable inheritance of £250,000 and several noble titles. Earl of Lucan, Baron Lucan of Castlebar, Baron Bingham of Melcombe Bingham, and Baronet Bingham of Castlebar. Overnight, Richard became the 7th Earl of Lucan, and his wife, Veronica, was now the Countess of Lucan. In 1967, the couple settled into their elegant Belgravia townhouse at 46 Lower Belgrave Street. Outwardly, they seemed like the perfect aristocratic family, raising 3 children amid London's elite. But behind closed doors, their marriage was unraveling. By late 1972, years of financial stress and Lucan's worsening gambling addiction had eroded their relationship beyond repair. He moved out in early 1973, setting off one of Britain's most bitter custody battles. Lucan lost that fight in court, but he couldn't accept defeat. Obsessed with regaining custody, he began stalking and spying on Veronica. He secretly recorded phone calls, hired private investigators to watch her every move, and even brought in doctors to claim she was mentally unfit to care for the children. Veronica, meanwhile, was living in fear. After dismissing the children's longtime nanny, she struggled to find anyone willing to work in the tense household. When a new nanny, 26-year-old Stefania Skeka, was hired, she quickly realized the danger Veronica was in. Veronica confided that Lucan had struck her with a cane and even pushed her down the stairs. Terrified, she warned Skeka, "Don't be surprised if he kills me one day." Eventually, Skeka left. Lucan, furious, told friends no one would work for his wife. But then came Sandra Rivett, a kind and capable young woman who took the job despite the warnings. By 1974, Lucan's life was spiraling. His gambling debts were mounting, his legal battles were draining his finances, and his obsession with control over Veronica and the children consumed him. Once a polished aristocrat who relished the image of a refined risk-taker, he was now a desperate man, losing grip on his fortune, his family, and his reputation. Then came the night of November 7th, 1974. That evening, after putting her younger children to bed, Veronica recalled that Sandra asked if she'd like a cup of tea before heading downstairs to the basement kitchen. When Sandra didn't return, Veronica went to check, calling down the narrow staircase. Suddenly, she was attacked, struck violently on the head. As she screamed, the attacker barked at her to shut up. In that instant, she recognized the voice. It was her husband's. A brutal struggle followed. Veronica bit his fingers, and when he pinned her face down to the carpet, she fought back, grabbing his testicles and forcing him to let go. Gasping, she demanded to know where Sandra was. Lucan stayed silent, then chillingly admitted he had killed her. Desperate to survive, Veronica pretended to sympathize. She told him she'd help him escape if he stayed hidden in the house while she recovered from her injuries. Lucan, believing her, went upstairs to see his daughter, and then asked Veronica to lie on the bed, instructing her to put towels down to avoid staining the sheets. He even asked if she had any barbiturates before going to the bathroom to get a wet towel, supposedly to clean her wounds. The moment he left the room, Veronica seized her chance. She ran out of the house, barefoot and bleeding, and fled into the cold night, eventually bursting into the nearby Plumber's Arms pub, screaming for help. Realizing she had escaped, Lucan vanished into the dark streets of Belgravia. Around 10 p.m., he appeared at the home of a friend, Malene Floorman, the mother of one of his daughter's classmates. She didn't answer the door at first, having received a strange, incoherent phone call moments earlier. By the time she checked, the caller was gone, but blood was found on her doorstep, later confirmed to be from two different people, blood types A and B. Lucan then phoned his mother, instructing her to collect the children from Belgrave Street. He told her there had been a terrible catastrophe, and claimed that, while driving by the house, he saw his wife fighting with another man in the basement. But his story didn't hold up, and the location of the call was never confirmed. When police arrived at the Lucan home, they forced their way in and discovered Sandra Rivett's body in the basement, savagely beaten. Veronica was rushed to St. George's Hospital, severely injured but alive. As detectives launched their search, one fact became clear. Before anyone could arrest him, Lord Lucan had disappeared, leaving behind only blood, chaos, and one of the most enduring mysteries in British criminal history. To investigators, the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together almost immediately. When Detective Chief Superintendent Roy Renson arrived at 46 Lower Belgrave Street, the divisional surgeon had already pronounced Sandra Rivett dead, and forensic officers and photographers were combing the scene for evidence. The first responding officers had found that the front door appeared to have been kicked in, though there were no other signs of forced entry. Inside, the crime scene was gruesome and chaotic. A blood-soaked towel lay in Lady Lucan's bedroom, and the area around the top of the basement staircase was splattered with blood. On the floor lay a lead pipe, also blood-stained. Paintings along the staircase were knocked askew. The banister was dented, and 2 cups and saucers lay broken in a pool of blood at the bottom of the stairs. Investigators noted that the light fitting at the base of the staircase was missing its bulb. One was found nearby on a chair, suggesting it had been deliberately removed. Even the garden showed traces of blood on the leaves, evidence of Lady Lucan's desperate escape. When police searched Lord Lucan's own flat nearby, they found nothing unusual, no signs of a hurried getaway. On his bed were a neatly laid-out suit, shirt, and a book about Greek shipping magnates. His wallet, car keys, cash, driver's license, glasses, and a handkerchief rested on the bedside table. His passport was still in a drawer, and his blue Mercedes-Benz sat outside, its engine cold and the battery dead. Still, all the evidence, motive, opportunity, and circumstance pointed to Lucan. Reports soon revealed that he had driven to the home of friends, the Maxwell Scotts, in Uckfield, East Sussex, just hours after the attack. That visit would become his last confirmed sighting. According to Susan Maxwell Scott, Lucan arrived at her house late that night. He appeared agitated but composed, and told her a version of events that painted himself as the hero who had interrupted an intruder attacking his wife. While there, he wrote 2 letters to his brother-in-law, Bill Shand Kidd, and mailed them to his London address. When Bill received the blood-stained letters, he immediately took them to the police. One, dated November 7, 1974, read, "Dear Bill, the most ghastly circumstances arose tonight, which I briefly described to my mother. When I interrupted the fight at Lower Belgrave Street, and the man left, Veronica accused me of having hired him. I took her upstairs, sent Frances to bed, and tried to clean her up. She laid doggo for a bit, and when I was in the bathroom, left the house. The circumstantial evidence against me is strong, in that V will say it was all my doing. I will also lie doggo for a bit, but I am only concerned for the children. If you can manage it, I want them to live with you. Coots Trustees, St. Martin's Lane. Mr. Wall will handle school fees. V has demonstrated her hatred for me in the past, and would do anything to see me accused. For George and Francis to go through life knowing their father had stood in the dock for attempted murder would be too much. When they are old enough to understand, explain to them the dream of paranoia and look after them. Yours ever, John." It was a chilling letter, an attempt at explanation, perhaps, or a desperate man's last defense. But it failed to change the narrative. The brutality of the crime shocked Britain to its core. Sandra Rivett wasn't just a servant. She was a kind-hearted young woman, a devoted nanny, and a beloved daughter and friend. Her senseless murder became a symbol of the darkness that could lurk behind the polished facade of the aristocracy. After that night, Lord Lucan was never seen again. Rumors spread quickly. Some claimed his influential friends helped him escape abroad, while others believed he took his own life. Over the years, supposed sightings emerged from every corner of the world: Australia, South Africa, India, even New Zealand. His disappearance became one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in British history. Decades later, a detective who re-examined the case in the 2000s told reporters that the evidence strongly suggested Lucan fled the country and lived abroad for several years under a false identity. Others whispered of a darker end, that Lucan's vast gambling debts caught up with him, and the same underworld figures who helped him flee later decided he was too great a liability to keep alive. Susan Maxwell Scott herself later told author John Pearson that she believed Lucan had been spirited out of the UK by shadowy financiers, but ultimately, those same men may have killed him and buried his body somewhere in Switzerland. And so, the legend of Lord Lucan grew, half fact, half myth, a story of privilege, violence, and a man who vanished into thin air, leaving behind one of the most haunting mysteries Britain has ever known. After years of speculation and confusion, the courts finally brought a form of closure in the late 1990s, when Lord Lucan was formally declared legally dead. His title and estate were passed to his son, George Bingham, who became the 8th Earl of Lucan. But even this legal declaration failed to answer the question that had haunted Britain for decades. What really happened to Lord Lucan? Had he truly died quietly, lost to history and guilt, or Had he carefully planned his escape, living under a new identity somewhere far from the scandal that destroyed his name? Some believed Lucan drowned himself in the English Channel that very night, overwhelmed by guilt and despair. Yet detectives never fully accepted that theory. There was no body, no confirmed evidence, only rumors and fragments of possibility. Then, in early 2025, the story that had long seemed frozen in time suddenly came alive again. Thanks to major advancements in forensic technology, a new review of the case was announced, led by none other than Neil Barramont, the son of murder victim Sandra Rivett. Neil, who had been adopted as a baby and only discovered his true parentage in adulthood, revealed that learning the truth about his mother's fate had been a devastating experience. "I remember the anger and disbelief," he told reporters, "to know that my mother, a kind and hard-working woman, was violently killed while serving as a nanny. It never leaves you." Now, as the head investigator overseeing the renewed inquiry into her murder, Neil vowed to use every tool modern science could offer to find the truth. "I will not give up until the truth is fully known," he said firmly. "This isn't just about the mystery of Lord Lucan. It's about justice for my mother and for everyone who has lived too long without answers." For the first time in half a century, hope flickered that one of Britain's greatest unsolved mysteries might finally be solved.